My 30-day memory challenge is over, and I'm very happy to announce that I passed. The goal was to memorize 1 deck of cards in less than 2 minutes, 10 decks in less than 60 minutes, and 1000 random digits in 60 minutes. And I got the idea for this goal through something called the Grand Master of Memory and the criteria to achieve this. The link here, I'll post it below the video. You can read more about it, what it is. And I should mention, obviously I do not have this title. You have to perform all these feats in a competition. But my plan is to, the very next competition that I'm able to go to, I will go and I'm going to compete in memory. So that's going to be interesting. My final result, I did 1 deck of cards in 1 minute 51 seconds. I have a video of me doing it in 1:56 in the channel, so you can check that out. I did 11 decks of cards in 1 hour, and I did 1058 digits in 1 hour. I spent a lot of time on something called Memory League. I'll speak more about that later, where I climbed up to the 65th position with 4,400 points, and this was without competing, and you get a lot of points if you compete and win. So this is just climbing up the ladder. I did 18 names in 1 minute. I did 30 random images in 29 seconds, 37 cards in 1 minute, 50 random digits, and 20 words. I also want to mention something here. This is nothing spectacular with these results. Anyone can do this, and I read this all over when I started researching the memory practice. Anyone can do this. There's nothing about my memory that made this possible only for me. Just anyone can do it. It just takes time. The first thing I did was to hire a coach, or even 2 coaches, and Florian Delay and Johannes Mallow helped me set up a plan for how to spend these 30 days. And even if the work I need to do that myself, there's no shortcut to doing this. You have to spend the time to improve your memory. 30 days is still a very short period of time, and most people were agreeing on it wouldn't be possible to do the Grand Master of Memory criteria in this short amount of time. So I didn't want to make any mistakes and spending 3 days building something that I could not use. So I wanted to get it right from the beginning. And as you can see, Johannes Mallow, he's in the memory circuit. He's very famous, and he's actually ranked #1, like the best memory in the world. You can also see number 3 here, we have a Swede called Marvin Wallonius. And we actually have a couple of really super beasts of Swedes when it comes to memory. We have Marvin, we have Jonas von Essen, we have Emma Andersson, and we have Janja. So check them out. They are performing feats that you wouldn't believe is possible. First thing that I did was to create memory palaces, and I've spoken about this in the channel as well. We have a really good memory for places and images, so this is what we're going to use the entire practice time. So I created about 50 memory palettes with about 1,200 locations, and everything from gyms or homes that I lived in to hotels I've stayed in. Anything that I have a picture of, I created memory palettes of. And either I can put an image or something in a room, or at a specific location, like in a sofa or on a television in a room. So every location is something that I can store image. Second thing I did was the cards, and a card itself is not really memorable, so I have to transform it into an image. There's no really logic behind how I did this. I just chose something, like the 2 of clubs would be sorrow, or the 7 of spades would be a hockey stick, and the 2 I imagine as being the sorrow sign, and the 7 of spades is a black and it looks like a stick, so it's going to be a hockey stick. And you have to just brute force memorize this. There's no trick, or you can't put this in the memory palace. You have to just remember what the image was that was associated with this card. And when I memorize, I put 3 cards in each location in my memory palace. So for example, if I start memorizing a deck of cards, and the first 3 cards would be the King of Hearts, the Ace of Clubs, and the King of Spades. That could be the Incredible Hulk tipping the Eiffel Tower over me. And this was all happening by the entrance of CrossFit Sarmal. And if you see this in your head, it's almost impossible to forget these 3 cards. And then when you recall them, you just translate it back. What was it I saw? Okay, there was an Incredible Hulk, and he did this, and it was this location. So I know exactly what 3 cards and where in the deck they were. So that makes this very easy, actually. And the trouble when you know this is just building up the speed, building the story strong enough to remember in the fastest amount of time. And this is actually what I struggle with, being fast, because I didn't at all struggle with the long series, because when I had the time to make strong images, I can remember them, but being fast was hard for me. So I spent a lot of time building up the speed. Then we did the same thing with the numbers, and here we can use something called the major system, and I've spoken about this as well, when you turn a number into a sound, and then you combine these numbers into sounds and build an image off of these. So for example, if you look at this image, it's going to be the 0, 9, and 0 would be S, and the 9 would be a P or a B, and you're free to use any letters that are not in the major system to fill the gaps. So the 0, 9 could be soap. And when it comes to memorizing, this has to go like boom into your head. You don't have time to go like okay, there's a soap. That's too slow, because it just has to transform from 09 into a soap immediately. I put 4 images or 8 digits per location, because every image is 2 digits. So for example, memorizing 11, 97, 39, 36 would be my dad opening a book that actually turns out to be a map, and then he set it on fire with a match, and this all was going on by the post box of our old house. Again, a really strong image, hard to forget. You just code it and then decode it in the recall. I realize now that I need to move on to another system if I'm to compete, because this is by far my weakest. And it's very slow to use the 2-digit system. I'm turning 000 into 999. That's the plan, but that's 1,000 images that I need to memorize, and that's going to take me some time, and I don't know when to get that. And also the putting 4 images per location, when I make a short story of it, it gets very strong. More or less, the more digits you have in the same location, the stronger the story gets, but the longer time it takes to build the story. So this system was very good for me for the long event, but if you look at the 1 minute digits, I can only do 50, and that's very, very slow. So I'm going to change the system, but I'm happy for now. So how did I train for this? I started out with speed cards every morning, because the later onto the day we get, the more tired my brain gets, and I do not have the same speed. So I did the speed cards twice each morning, and I tried to do this every morning. Then I took a break where I did images or names, and after lunch I did one longer event, like the 15-minute numbers, or the 3 or 4 decks or cards. Something was a little longer. Again, a break where I did images or names, and then system training. And system training is more or less learning to transform a card or a number into an image as fast as possible without even thinking about it. So it's more or less your brain getting used to that it's not really the image of the card, it's the image. So week 1 I did pretty much only system training, because it was so slow for me to transform like the 36. I had to sound the image out to get it. And it's too slow, so I spent all my time just, this card is this image and this number is this image. Week 2, I was in Dubai, and I was doing almost no training at all. I'd say I did about 2 hours of practice the entire week. But in week 3, I did a lot of training. I mean a lot of training. So by week 4, I was almost done, actually. I just needed to get the results. So for the images and the memory league, I strongly recommend memory league because it's so much fun. Even if you have no plan to expand your memory in some way, this is still a very good spending of your time. And here my strategy is to put 2 images per location and put these into memory palettes. And I make some very fast story about how these images are connected, because that will help me with the recall when, okay, what was happening with the boat. Okay, so with the boat, a girl for some reason was taking a picture of this boat, and this was by the entrance of the gym. And then there was an alley leading up to the stereo where a guy was really unhappy, and maybe he didn't like the music, I don't know why, but he's just miserable. And then by the pull-up station, somebody built this hut and was sitting in there and timing people doing pull-ups. Yeah, you get the picture. And then do this as fast as possible. And I was actually able to reach level 10, which is the highest level, very fast. And to me, this was by far the most easy one. And I think that's not just me, I think it's the easiest one for everyone. And my best score, as you can see here, this was 33 seconds, but I did 29. I didn't get a picture of it. But I can do 30 seconds, around 30 seconds, pretty easily now. When it comes to cards, this is the same system I use for the speed cards. Exactly the same thing. I'm at level 8. My best score is 37 cards in 1 minute. And nothing really to it. For some reason I put in this 5-star hotel I put here. I managed to put in a frying pan when I should have put in a tent. I have no idea why I did that, but that made me not move on to level 9, unfortunately. Names. This is so much fun because I really suck at names. I mean, really suck at names. When I started doing this, I did about 4 or 5 names per minute, and that's very weak. And now I'm able to do at least 12, 13 every time I try. And my highest score is 18. And that makes me the highest level on names. So I went from level 1 to level 10 in 2 weeks or so. And what I do here, I do not use a memory palettes. You can do that, but I don't. I pick a feature like teeth or something in the hair or the cheek or whatever, something that stands out, and then I put something on there to make me remember the name. For example, the Tom here, I imagine Tom and Jerry, so I imagine this cat sliding across his head here. And for Charles, I imagine Charles Manson, so I imagine him behind bars. And with Angela, I imagine from The Office, Angela Martin, so she was actually sitting by her desk. So for all names, I do not do the pick a feature, put something there. I sometimes imagine them in a specific position that makes me remember who they are. And this is working out really well, actually. And if you're able to remember, if you meet 10 people and instantly remember their names, I guess that's a good thing. Then we have the numbers, and by far my weakest. I put 4 images per location. I put this into a memory palace, and I'm at level 8, meaning 50 numbers in 1 minute. And the fastest people in the world, they do like 80 numbers in 20 seconds. So I'm far behind, so I need to upgrade this system. I realize this takes me up to level 8. Words I also kind of struggle with in the beginning. My high score is the one you see here. It's 20 in a little less than a minute. Again, turning the word into an image. So you see the whole idea with the memory practice, whatever it is, for us to remember something, you have to turn it into an image so you can imagine it. So turn it into an image and put it into a memory palace. And for example, I remember this 12. This was in the bathroom, and when I opened the door, I realized it was the entire universe on the other side of the door, and I saw a red giant. And then moving on to the hallway, there was an apron, but the length of this had to be adjusted, and then you just move on and you recall it in the same fashion as you recall anything. I'm at level 8. I think I'm gonna move on pretty soon because I'm getting faster with turning strange words like misinterpret or fantastic into images. And that was kind of hard for me in the beginning, but I'm going to be at level 10 soon. So I discovered I had some optical obstacles to move through, and for quite some time I did not really gain speed. I actually doubted that I could go below 2 minutes. So when I talked to Florian and Johannes about this, they said, okay, don't mind the time that you want, go for something ridiculous. So go for 1:30 and just accept that you'll make a lot of mistakes. So I started doing the 1:30 and moving on way faster than I thought that I would be able to. And this was very frustrating because for like a week, I did not make 100% deck. I had like 10 mistakes or 6 mistakes every time. But it worked, so never question the pros. Then I struggled with being distracted, so anything would distract me, like the clock on the church outside, or a telephone vibrating in another room. Anything would distract me. So the cure here was to actually distract me even more, to play music, to have the TV on, or to sometimes just stop, look around, see something, and then continue. This also worked very, very well. I started to mix up some images. For example, the Hulk and the Superman. I realized that I have a superhero in this location, but who was it? So either you start spending time with these images, like you sit with the King of Hearts and you imagine spending the time with the Incredible Hulk, and you pick some feature of him, like the fact that he's very strong and he is green and is powerful and is probably pretty angry as well, and you more remember these features of him than the Hulk as he looks. Or you can change them, because some images, no matter how much time I spent with them, I didn't get to stick, so I just had to change them. And also the first couple of times when I did the long events, I struggled with for example, I had a map, and after the map I had a shovel, and the next time I had a map and a frying pan. So I saw the map, and what was it that I had after this? Was it this or this? And this messed it up for me. So I started to make them different in some way. So one map was really small. I had to use like magnifying glass to see them, or some was very big and I could almost not open them. So make them stand apart. And these were pretty much the only 4 obstacles that I faced, and was able to work through all of them. So what's my conclusion? What did I get from these 30 days of memory practice? And first of all, this was probably the most fun. I had so much fun competing, or not competing, but climbing the levels on a memory league, and it was just an awesome time. I have some practical examples. When I was actually studying for the memory practice, I heard my wife in the kitchen going cost, timescale, quality, scope, risk, benefit, cost, timescale, and I realized she was doing what I was told not to do, like repeating something over and over and over again, hoping it would stick. So I called out to her and asked her, do you want me to help you remember this in a way that you will never forget it? And she said, okay, let's try it. So I created a memory palace of the apartment we were in at the time, and I walked her through. I actually walked through the memory palace and told her that in the first, it was entering the apartment, there was a lady, and she was charging everybody to enter the apartment because it was a cost of just going inside. And took her through the entire thing, and this just blew her mind. She could recall this in order, she could saw it anywhere and still remember in order, she could go backwards, and she will never forget it. Actually, I did not think of this series of words since I did this with her, and it was 2 weeks ago maybe, and I still remember this because it creates so strong images. I also memorized a lot of fun facts, more or less, and these wouldn't say have any practical use at all, besides from making yourself look good at a dinner party. I can name Pulitzer Prize winners. I know all the subway stations in Stockholm, and I actually memorized yesterday's all of the stock prices for the 100 biggest companies in Denmark, because I appeared on Börsen today. So it's a kind of a memory trick. So lots of these cool things. I don't know if I would say that I use them, but it's kind of fun. And I started this challenge because when I read the Moonwalking with Einstein, I was kind of scared to learn that the average person spends 40 days per year relearning things they already knew but have forgotten. And this was very scary, and I imagine how much more work I could get done if I didn't spend these 40 days. But to be honest with you, I really don't know if this is going to be the case, because still after this I need to memorize things to not forget them. I need to look at a telephone number, I turn them into an image and I store them somewhere. And if I do not do this, if I just glance at a telephone number, if I do something that is not specifically memorized, I forget it. So more or less, if you don't pay attention, you will still forget, and your keys will still be misplaced. And that's it for this challenge. Thank you very much for following me.